Are you familiar with the films of Spike Lee? Have you seen Do the Rye Thing? Hello and welcome to Intoxicated Masculinity. If it's Wednesday, we have a cocktail video coming at you. Today, we are in Bourbon Heritage Month, so of course we are going to drink rye, because I don't do anything topically. So this month, I've got a bunch of ryes that I think are kind of interesting, ones that you don't necessarily always run across. There's a few sort of main lines we're going to talk about, but this month we're going to talk about 4 categories of ryes in different age statements, and we are going to sort of match them up. So for this first one, we're going to go with the youngest ryes that I personally have in my bar. These are all going to be around 2 years old. And these are ryes that typically I would not probably buy. Not to say they're bad. I just don't know if the sort of the value is there, because most of these are not cheap ryes to buy. But I did think it was a good idea to start off here to see what the really young ryes taste like. The one thing that has been always kind of a mystery to me is how ryes have a tendency to mature faster than bourbons do. If you have a 6-year bourbon versus a 6-year rye, the 6-year rye will almost always taste more mature than the bourbon will. Maybe we'll get a whiskey expert on here sometime to explain why that is, but it is. So we're going to look to see if any of these 2-year ryes are things that we could recommend. Especially given the price point. I don't have the price on these whiskeys. I've sort of picked up over the course of several different years. They come from all over the country, but I know they all are definitely going to be more expensive than sort of like your Heaven Hills, your Jim Beam ryes, you know, that type of thing, and at a much sort of younger age.
Limousine.
Well, Limousine we've talked about before. Limousine's fantastic. Definitely recommend it.
I never thought of it, and it was just like, wow. But anyway, we're not talking about that. We're talking about these.
So I'm going to go back and I'm going to grab these first 4 ryes that we're going to talk about this week. So going forward next week, we're going to talk about some 4-year ryes. The week after that, some. And I'm not quite as strict on the age statements here. I want them to be pretty close. So in the 3rd week of September, we are going to be talking about 5- and 6-year ryes. There's a couple 5 years and a couple 6 years there. And for the last, we are going to talk about some 7-year and 8-year ryes. So that's where we're going. Later on, or throughout the month, but right now we're going to talk about our first 4 ryes, and I'm going to grab those now. Okay, we're back and we have 4 ryes. The 4 ryes we're going to talk about today. I know we just did our Amari tasting. Go with the plural. Our Amari tasting with Brandon a couple weeks ago, and we kind of rushed through those. Again, that we were doing so many Amari. I'll get there. And I didn't really want to drill down too specifically on any individual one because we had so many to talk about, and we were sort of trying to get to 2 to put up against our Campari. This time we're talking about a lot fewer, so I'm going to get into these a little bit more. So the first one is a Runestone Straight Rye Whiskey. This is J. Carver. This is a Minneapolis distillery. I honestly didn't have a great experience at their distillery tour. I thought I'm not somebody who likes to correct people on distillery tours. But the person who was giving the tour, who was the owner, gave us some information that was just not good information. So
inaccurate.
Just inaccurate. Just
embellished.
No, just inaccurate information.
Okay.
And kind of bothered me a little bit. But again, we got the bottle here. We're going to try it out. The next one is. They will certainly tell you they're the last Beam-owned distillery in Kentucky. I find that claim to be somewhat dubious. They did sell, I think, a 50. I'm not sure exactly what their stake was. It was something like either they sold 49% or 51% to another company, so they are a partially owned Beam distillery. And this is Limestone Branch. And I should say, I'm sorry, on this. So this is a straight rye whiskey. Straight rye whiskey meaning it has to be at least 2 years old, and if it's less than 4 years old, they have to state it, which I'm sure they do. It'll say right on the back here, straight rye whiskey, aged at least 2 years. This is coming in. They actually give you the mash bill in here. This is 86% Minnesota rye and 14% malted rye. This is 40% alcohol by volume, which is I always find to be a tiny bit of
Minnesota rye.
It's just rye from Minnesota. They're proud of their Minnesota rye. And that is, by the way, one thing, most of the rye that comes from Kentucky, the rye did not come from Kentucky because rye doesn't grow up. Rye is a crop that grows better in colder climates. So they don't grow much rye in Kentucky. They don't grow much rye actually even here in
Probably
Iowa.
like the Dakotas, maybe.
The Dakotas, and honestly, in Europe. They grow a lot of rye in Europe too. So next up, like I said, we got Limestone Branch. This is 22 months old. So this is actually just 2 months shy of 2 years old. So you notice on here they do not say straight rye whiskey. They say Kentucky rye whiskey because this is actually 2 months too young to be called straight rye whiskey. This comes in at 40% alcohol by volume. Oh, and I started to say, when I see 40% alcohol by volume, that is the lowest proof or the lowest percentage alcohol you can have and still call yourself a whiskey. So in other words, if this is 39% alcohol by volume, it's not a whiskey anymore. So when you're producing these products, you are gaining proof typically throughout the aging process. People are going into the barrel anywhere between 110 up to 125 proof. So if you're giving me something at 80%, or excuse me, 80 proof, 40%, we'll get there.
Big jump.
So when you give me 80 proof, what you're saying basically is this is the most that we could water this down. Now again, it doesn't mean it's bad whiskey. It doesn't. It is one of those sort of red flags you kind of run into. So this is come in at 47 proof, 47%, 94 proof. There's a bunch of other information under the barrel. Char is char 3. They now, I think,
Out of 5?
so most whiskey is going to be either a char 1 to a char 4. I have heard of them doing char 5s, but I would not. That is very much outside of what most people are doing. But I mean, for the most part, it's a just under 2-year-old whiskey. Oh, this is interesting. They actually tell you the barrel entry proof. They put this into the barrel at just a little over 100. Excuse me, just a little under 51%.
Okay.
So when they pulled it out, they probably put some distilled water in there. Now, putting distilled water in your distillate is not a bad thing. Everybody does it to some degree.
Proofing down.
I mean, you do have your barrel proof whiskeys out there, and I do appreciate those, but most people are going to proof down a little bit. Next, we have our Epoch. So I got this in quite a while. This is a Baltimore distillery. The more familiar Baltimore rye is Sagamore. But Sagamore, I believe most of their product is still coming from MGP. I'm not 100% sure about that. I haven't been there in a while. They are an interesting distillery, and I recommend checking them out. So this is distilled, aged, and bottled by Baltimore Whiskey Company. As Kale pointed out, this is 100 proof.
It's more of our normal ballpark of proofs that we usually partake in.
Now here on this bottle, they tell you this was aged for no less than 2 years in 53-gallon barrels. There are some distilleries that are using smaller barrels. They will tell you it ages whiskey faster, and I'm here to tell you that's not right. There is no aging whiskey faster. Whiskey ages with how it ages, and that's it. What you can get is more oak, introduce more oak into the whiskey more quickly. But oak and maturity are not the same thing.
I love a double oaked whiskey.
So oak isn't a bad thing to have in your, I mean, too much certainly can be. But with a very small, especially for very small barrels, which some of these distillers do, you're just adding oak. You're adding oak and not maturity. So you have a whiskey where you're still going to be tasting, you're going to taste corn in these because there's not a lot of corn in these, but you're still going to be tasting all of that like grain. But you're going to get the oak, and I don't find that to be a pleasant combination.
I think the thing for this when we're tasting them is trying to separate them because they're all going to have that black pepper thing going on that just kind of takes over the whole drink. So I think looking for other tasting notes is going to prove to be...
Well, you're also going to be getting a ton of grain in these.
Okay.
These are young whiskeys. You're going to get a ton of grain.
Okay.
We'll see how it goes. Finally, we've got one other Kentucky distillery. This is Neely Family. I always love going to their distillery. One time I went there and it was just the master distiller and then one person working the counter, so he gave me the tour in the back and kind of gave me the he's a real like Kentucky good old boy kind of guy. Very, very nice. Really, you know, just an interesting tour, and I had a great time. Again, this is, I should talk about the whiskey. So this is 65% rye. It does not say the rest of the mash. So this is This is a sweet mash. We'll talk about this in the coming weeks. So sweet mash or a sour mash whiskey is where you take some of your previous fermentation, you put it into the new one. And with a sweet mash, you're going just fresh every single time. It's a totally new batch. I think people have sort of kind of associated sour mash as being better, and I don't know if that's really fair. Sour mash certainly can be better. It's just a different process. This is 52% alcohol by volume, 105.6 proof, and this was aged exactly 24 months. So this is, as you can see on the label, Kentucky Straight Rye Whiskey.
It's a little baby.
I believe this is the only one that is not a straight rye whiskey. Yeah. But remember, the difference in age here is only 2 months, so I can't imagine it's gonna have a huge impact.
Yeah. And you said you weren't going to be a stickler about it.
No, it's one of those things. I think sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not. Human beings are inconsistent. You just got to get over it eventually.
Let's drink.
Let us drink. I'm going to go ahead and get some glasses, and we're going to start tasting these things. So what we're going to do, these are going to be single blinded. I don't have any assistants here today other than Kale, so we're going to sort of do a little process that I do where I pour and he sets them out. So we will not know which one we are tasting when we were actually tasting them. And we will see you back in just a moment. So we are back, and we are where I always like to be, surrounded by whiskey. So I think we're going to go left to right. We're going to start right here. You will see a little dot when we take drinks. Just ignore that. That's just how we're sort of blending these. So let's try this first one.
Unless you see dots on a regular basis, in which case you should go see an ophthalmologist.
Or a neurologist.
Or a neurologist. Smells like rye.
It's got kind of a nice, kind of light pepper notes. It's not
And
actually...
when you're nosing, remember, keep your mouth open. Otherwise the fumes can become overwhelming, astringent.
I'm never overwhelmed by alcohol. All right, let's give this a try. This is weird. So there's actually a pretty decent finish on there, but the beginning is very hot.
Really?
Well, I think fairly hot. Maybe this one. I assume this is one of our hotter ones. We'll see. It's probably gonna be the 40 proof one. There's a little nail polish in there.
On the nose, there's some astringency. Yeah.
I would say on the palate there's some astringency as well. It's not bad. It's not bad.
Okay, well, when I first indulged, it was kind of light, very not heavy on the oak, a little buttery.
Maybe I spoke.
I'm not getting much else out of that though. Maybe some nut or something, but
I don't. It's got that light oak finish that I kind of don't like.
it's like, well, I mean, it's white oak.
No, I mean, no,
tastes like white oak.
Not I mean light oak. Like,
Yeah.
like you'll see this in whiskeys where they age it in very small containers, where it gets oak but not maturity. This I don't think this was probably in
Try
small
the
barrels.
water trick.
Yeah. I don't hate it. I don't love it.
I would call that a fair attempt.
I think it's passable. I mean, I wouldn't be furious if I got that at a bar. I
It's
do
not
think that
bold though. When I think rye, I think bold. Like
I think there's a lot of astringency on that, or not a moderate amount of astringency, which is a moderate amount of astringency is too much astringency. I think it's. I don't hate it. I don't hate it. I'll say that. All
sorry
right,
for the slurp.
number 2. Hopefully it doesn't taste like number 2.
A lot stronger nose.
Really? That's fine. I think it's maybe weaker.
Really?
There's a.
No, it's stronger to me.
I mean,
Got it in here.
I think one of the things that's going to come up here is, again, since these whiskeys are so young, they are going to not have as much sort of uniqueness as they might otherwise.
That one I'm getting the pepper right away.
That is very light.
And there's not much else to it. It's
No, there's
it's
not
a
much.
little pepper on the end of your tongue.
Yeah, I get some pepper.
Oh,
on
wait.
There's pepper on the finish too. It is not a super flavorful whiskey.
No. I'm gonna see
Interestingly,
if we can open her up.
interestingly enough, I will say I don't think there's as much astringency on this one. So I think if I was comparing it to this one, there is less wrong with this one.
It just, it fooled me. It's like, like on the nose, I was like, okay, this is gonna be a little bolder, and then it's like all this pepper at the front, and then boom, got nothing, no linger, no nothing. It's just gone.
Yeah, it doesn't stick around. It doesn't do it's. It's a little one note and a little bland, to be honest. But again, we're giving these tasting notes, and I don't want to seem like we're just coming in here and saying, "Oh, this is shit, that's shit." Like, that's not what I'm doing.
I am. This is shit.
Trust me, if I want to call something shit, I'll call it shit. It's 2 years. It's not a lot of interaction between the whiskey and the barrel. It just doesn't have a lot of time. So none of these whiskeys, again, I don't want to prejudge. We still got 2 more to go. I just don't think any of these whiskeys are going to be amazing because whiskey takes time. Every time you hear somebody say, speed up the aging process or anything like that, you can't do it. Whiskey is something, there's no way to speed it up. It takes the time that it takes.
Are there some out there that are like 25, 30-year aged whiskeys?
For rye?
Or is that just scotches?
No, there's some. I mean, the thing with bourbon, because remember, you can age a long time in Scotland because you have a very constant climate. Yeah. It is very cold. It is very moist. It's kind of perfect condition to long age whiskeys. If you go down to Kentucky, that is not the case. Kentucky gets very cold and Kentucky gets very hot. And if you're in especially a high floor in a brick house,
breathe.
Yeah, and I think I've talked about that before. When it gets very, very cold outside, the grains on the wood tighten up. It pushes the whiskey out of the wood and back into the barrel. When it gets hot outside, the grains open up and it sucks the whiskey into the wood. So the whiskey is actually interacting in the wood grain. It's not just sitting in a barrel, it's literally entering the wood.
I will enter you.
Our new channel call sign. I will enter you. But so in Kentucky, which is where most bourbon is made, still, I mean, there's a lot of places outside of Kentucky that make very good bourbon these days, but Kentucky is still your primary place where bourbon is going to come from. And so you get this thing, and we're going to do an expansive episode on bourbon one of these days. I've got it planned out. I just have to get it kind of together and get it done. You run the risk of aging too short and you get basically no flavor. Age too long, and like for example, I had a Elijah Craig 23 year, I believe it was. And I also had it was a Heaven Hill product. It was one of their special releases. Parker's Heritage, and I think it was a 26 or 27 year. It's just wood. It's wood and nothing else. So you really want to hit that sweet spot. For me, bourbon, like 10 to 18 years is like a really good sweet spot to be in. I think much over, they're definitely good whiskeys. Your Pappy Van Winkles go up into the 23 year. They did a 1 year release of a 25 year. And I've had the Pappy 23. I think it's very good. I would never pay the price people pay for it. But really with bourbon, you're looking at that sort of...
We're getting a little far afield.
A little far afield. For rye, though, you can have a real solid rye. I mean, we'll look at next week. You can get like a 4 year rye. So ryes are maturing a little faster than bourbons are. And again, if somebody wants to put in the comments below why they think that is, I'm open to answers. But get back to the whiskey at hand.
Trace.
That's got a nicer nose.
It's sweet.
It is a little sweet.
This okay. I'm not betting, but I think. Could just be wordplay though. It could just be a psychological trick.
I know what you're thinking. Here's that actually is sweet. When you talk sour mash versus sweet mash, it doesn't necessarily mean that something will taste sour or taste sweet. It's just a different process.
Oh, it's different.
It is different. It doesn't taste that rye. Like,
I mean, it's not bad.
I would definitely use the dreaded phrase that I hate using, smooth. I think it is relatively smooth.
I'm getting like, there's only a hint of pepper. It's like honey and like stone fruit, like apricot or something.
I'm getting the pepper, but I see what you're saying with the honey. There is a sweetness to it. It's kind of different. I don't hate that at all, actually.
Actually, with the stone fruit, I kind of like that bitterness. You guys were doing all those Negroni,
Boulevardiers, Kale.
Amari, octopi, Amari, Elvi.
These fucking new guys, right?
Elvi, multiple Elvises. No, but like the bitterness that you were talking about, like, you know, I actually enjoy that when you get that, like if you get like some black walnuts, get like 3 or 4 of them in your mouth, or like you take a bite out of a fresh piece, and that little dryness, like way back here in the back of your throat, it's refreshing.
That's different. That is definitely different than the other ones, significantly so. Let's go for our last one.
I'm starting to get a little bit of that on the linger. I don't know if you notice that at all.
I'm getting sweetness. Like this one, that one to me finishes with sweetness. The pepper, normally with a rye, the finish is going to be all pepper.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna finish it.
I'm going to leave a little so I can go back to it. But I'll definitely finish it off camera.
I would not say this is a great rye, but I do like it.
Yeah, I think I would agree exactly with that. This has got that mustiness. So if you've ever done, it doesn't smell exactly. If you ever drank Eagle Rare, and especially Eagle Rare single barrels, they can have this like kind of like swampy mustiness that kind of comes across, which sounds negative, but I actually kind of like that.
You know, I'll tell you what.
It's lighter than Eagle Rare.
This is very specific and unique to my upbringing, but what it kind of reminds me of, like you said, musty, and I get that, but I get like it's like leathery. It's like when you find like an old baseball glove that like used to belong to like your grandpa or something,
and you just put it in your mouth,
and you just kind of like, you know, because have you ever just like when you were playing? Did you play baseball? Did you smell your glove? I smelled my glove. Is that weird? Does that make me weird? I smelled the glove. I like leather.
So first of all, that doesn't make you weird. You're just weird. But no, like I'm a comic book fan. I like nothing better than that sort of acidy smell of old comic books.
I like the smell of new tires.
That's one thing I think is kind of interesting. And aroma is an incredible trigger of memory.
Oh yeah.
And so, like for example, if you ask me what are the tasting notes for Laphroaig, for example, I'll say Laphroaig is like Band-Aids on fire, but in a good way. And it's true.
I wouldn't call it that.
It's Band-Aids on fire, but in a really good way.
Now we're getting somewhere.
This has the best finish. I think it has the best finish. It's the thing that's frustrating about this. When I taste a whiskey like this, I'm like, if you had left this in the barrel for just like 2 more years,
and just
this would be
a little bit.
Like this would have been a great rye. It's not a great rye. It has those sort of youthful components.
Well, when we find out who it is, we'll write a letter.
Yes, absolutely. There's a lot of good stuff going on in this one. But ultimately, for me,
it's got excellent mouthfeel.
It's got great mouthfeel. It's got a great finish. It's got the best finish of anything on the stage so far.
Really buttery at the beginning. It's got that just a nice even amount of pepper. And like you said, a couple more years in the barrel. I mean, that's going to take any astringency that's in there. Even I think there might be a hint, if any.
Very little. There's a little. There's not very much.
But it would totally mellow it out. I'm gonna see if I can open her up a little.
I think I need to go back to these two.
This is by far and away my number one. It's got good legs too, and I wasn't even looking for legs.
Yeah, I think I'm on that wavelength.
That's where the mouthfeel comes from, is those oils. It absorbs those oils from the cask.
It's one of the big debates you'll come across among a lot of bourbon enthusiasts is chill filtration. So what chill filtration is you essentially bring the whiskey down to, I don't know exactly what temperature. I mean, it's down to zero, below zero. And what it does is it freezes up all the little compounds that are inside the whiskey that are like oils, and they strain them out. The reason is because if you put, a perfect example of this is like your Johnnie Walker Black Label, Johnnie Walker Red Label. They have a product that they want to be incredibly consistent. They want every bottle of Johnnie Walker Black you buy to taste exactly like every other bottle of Johnnie Walker Black Label you buy. They put a colorant in it because they want it to look the color of whiskey, and they chill filter it because they want to make sure that if you put that bottle of whiskey in a freezer for 3.5 years and pull it out, it will look exactly the same. If you put a chill filtered or a non-chill filtered whiskey in the freezer, it will come out cloudy. That doesn't mean it's bad. There's nothing wrong with that. It will not hurt you.
I look for the clouds.
Yeah.
But I would equate it to like if you're cooking something, if as far as the chill filtering goes, like the oils, that's where your mouthfeel is. It adds to the flavor of the product. And it's like when you're cooking something, fat is where the flavor is. So why would you cut out all the fat by chill filtering?
And by the way, if somebody
taking out all that
in the whiskey industry,
accent of that flavor.
Somebody in the whiskey industry will tell you, people that are in this business will say, it's not hurting it. They're not taking out any of the flavor. It does affect mouthfeel, and that's the only thing that it affects. And they've done studies, and they seem to have proven that. I remain skeptical because I
like what I like.
Right. All right. We are going to check. Well, I'm sorry. First of all, I agree with you. Number 4 is easily number 1. I'm going to go with number 3 next. I don't know if it's necessarily the best rye, but I think it's interesting and it's different. And I think interesting and different is good.
I'm going to go for 2, 3, 1. And that's only because 2 is more like a rye than 3 was. 3, as a product in general, I enjoyed more than 2, but since we're trying to figure out which one's the best rye, this is going to be my order. 4, 2, 3, 1.
I'm actually right in order. 4, 3, 2, 1. Is that what you said too?
I said 4, 2, 3, 1.
Okay, so we're pretty close. Just up in the middle. But now
that's a matter of taste.
Yeah. So 3 is going to really depend on your palate. If you want a rye, you're probably not going to like that. It is not like a super rye forward rye. It's got a lot of sweetness to it, but I think it's interesting and I think it's a little different.
I'm looking forward to figuring out which one that is, because.
All right, shall we check our dots?
Yeah, let's check our dots. Dot matrix.
I'll forget tons of
Tons of
It's
time.
going to be longer than I thought it was. We're talking a lot. I think it's good. All right, so what was your last
You
place?
started talking before you stopped walking.
I did. So, okay, so we're back. We're going to check these out. What was your last place? Was it 1?
1, yeah.
Okay, so we're going to check 1 first. So that is the
Green.
yellow. That's yellow.
Oh, fuck. So maybe you were right after all.
You totally fucked this up.
Shh.
Okay, so... Shit. I wonder I couldn't tell.
Okay, so your green was what number?
So this should be... That's right.
This one's yellow, green.
I didn't have a green. And...
You didn't have a green?
No, because you didn't give me a green. I told you to look at the bottoms. See? You raised...
Son of a...
Okay. So, well, we agree on the number 1. So...
You're telling me that this and this are the same pour.
Yes. The yellow. The yellow is the epoch.
This is going to be the best tasting ever.
You just... I said them. There's like 2 and 2. I'm just like, take these and put them here. Take these 2, put them here. Take these 2, put them here.
That was the idea. But then I took one and I put it over here, and then when I went to take
But that's why I told you to look
the
at the
next
bottom.
one,
That's why I told
I
you to look
took
at the
this
bottom.
one instead of that one, and I was like, oh shit, which one's which? And then I did look at the bottom, and I thought I had them.
Okay, so we're gonna do this.
Fuck it, just edit it and make it look like we did the thing.
Well, we're gonna do this real quickly. Okay, yellow and green are the two. So I got 2 yellows.
And I got 2 greens.
Okay, so here is green, which you've already had. So I'm gonna pour myself green. And this is yellow.
So I guess those are the same. So I didn't even have that one.
So this is mine. That's yours.
All right.
So that's. Hold on. You got a yellow. You got yellow, and I got green.
Yes.
We're just gonna do this. Fuck it, straight through.
All right. So I messed up.
He messed up. We're fixing it now.
I had 2 of the same color, and he had 2 of the same color instead of us.
So we were going to go for the others. So I'm going to go ahead.
So he's
and-
going to try the one that he didn't get. And I'm going to try the one that I didn't get.
I'm trying
My
green.
bad.
I'm trying green. He's trying yellow. Oh, that's good. That's real good. You don't like that one, do you?
I don't. No.
Yeah, I didn't. It was kind of.
I don't. Now I gotta go. Now I gotta try number 4 again though.
Yeah. Yeah. Newsflash.
I still like 4 better. But I think
You know what? I think I like this better than 4.
well, you're wrong.
So this has some dynamite notes. So this is the green. So this, well, we're off book a little bit, but I'll explain kind of at the end.
So that's these.
Yes.
And you like that better than this.
Yeah, I think I do. Because I put the 2 that were together. I had my 1 and 2 were the same. By the way, technical difficulties happen. Be forgiving. And I like to be honest about it. Like I'm not gonna bullshit people. That's real good. I like that a lot. I think I'm going for that one as my number 1, then number 4, then number 3, and then my 2 number 2s. I think that's great. I think that's a really good whiskey. Like it's got a finish. There's no astringency. It's got a weird little. There's like a weird little mint note in there that I'm totally digging. Overall, I have to say, this is pretty good. I think I'm pretty happy with the way this turned out. Even if it,
Happy mistake.
so the one that you tried last, where do you put that one?
So this is the one that you actually really like that you just tried.
The green one, yeah, that's my number 1. I think that's just that does it for me.
You know what? I'll be okay with it. I'm kind of torn between that one and number 4. This one is a little. It has like a sweetness.
So let's go with the one that you tried, the yellow. By the way, when we say the colors, we have little tags we put on these things. That's what it's saying.
That's what I messed up.
So would you say that was your last place then?
Yeah, probably go green, red, yellow.
And then that's red with a mark.
Is it?
Sorry, only had 3 tags.
Okay.
And then this was. What about this one? The regular red. Because for that one, that was mine.
That was my number 1.
So that's your. So it's number 1, and then the green is number 2. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're gonna go with yellow. Yellow, I think we both had in last place, right?
Yeah.
That's
so
the
I've
that's
got,
the new one.
red with a whatever.
Okay, so we both had yellow in last place, which I'm kind of frustrated. It's Epic. I was kind of rooting for them, to be
Epoch.
honest. Epoch, Epic. It's a Baltimore distillery. Due to work, I've spent time in Baltimore.
It's from a book. Book of Epoch.
I think the real sin of this one is it just kind of doesn't do much. It's not actively bad. Like I don't think
I honestly had high hopes as soon as I saw that 100 proof on the top label. I was like, oh, that's probably going to be pretty good. And I was sorely disappointed.
And I believe next I had the red without the mark.
So my number one was the green.
No, your number one was the...
Or your number one was the green.
Right.
So I kind of... The red with the mark,
Was your number...
that was my original number one. But like I said, I'm willing
Okay,
to
so next would
vacate
be...
that to agree with you on this one because it is a little bit more fuller bodied.
So next would be just the red. Okay, so that's the Runestone. I'm kind of happy about that. That was, yeah. So that was the one that came off kind of sweet, and I, had some bad things to say about the person who gives the tour. But overall, I enjoyed this. This is the one that it's not your sort of traditional rye. Like it has some sweetness to it. It has some interesting notes. So I did not hate that, and they are free to put that on their label. That we didn't hate it. No, it's interesting.
That's a great sales slogan.
But seriously, it is a different kind of flavor. I enjoyed it. It's good. So then we come down to our final two. So originally,
This was the yellow one.
that is this one.
Okay.
So
That's my third place.
I think that was your last place.
No, number one was,
The regular red.
yeah, the regular.
Okay, so the regular red was his last place. It was my, let me see here, third place. So it's Neely family. Wait a second. Red. Oh, this is red with the mark. Yeah. Okay, so Neely
So
family.
red with the mark was my number one.
We're gonna edit some.
This was my number one.
Okay, so this is the one. It was Kale's number one. It's my number two. We both liked it a lot. Again, I think that if they had left this in the barrel for just like another 18 months, this would be perfect. Not perfect, but very, very good. I found a few flaws with the flavors. I felt like you did taste the grains a little bit, but overall, I think they did a very good job, and I enjoyed that. And my number one. So interestingly enough,
Distillery in Kentucky for Jim B. Sort of.
sort of, mostly. So yeah, Limestone Branch, the youngest. This is the only one that was under 2 years. And I think they did a pretty damn good job.
Well, they've been doing it for a while, I imagine.
Well, I mean, family, I don't know, but it's a good whiskey. It is. It doesn't taste its age. I think the highest compliment you can pay a younger whiskey is, I can't believe that's a younger whiskey. With that one, I can. That's why I put it number one.
Well, sometimes there's that phenom that just comes up and is like they were just born to do it. They're just that good.
But honestly, when I go through the whole thing, this is my final thoughts, and I'll let you give your final thoughts in just a moment. The Epoch, or Epic, however how they want to pronounce it, its big failing is it just kind of doesn't do a lot. It kind of just, it's there.
It's all show.
I mean, it doesn't have a lot of unique flavors. The Runestone is definitely not my favorite rye whiskey, but it does taste interesting and experimental, and I get notes in there that I don't get in other rye whiskeys. So I think, while it is not my favorite on this list, I definitely...
And that was a sweet one.
That's the sweet one, yeah. At least let me double check. Yes. Yes. Make sure we don't have any more of that.
It's the one I'm going to trick my friends with.
Yeah, it's interesting. Neely Family is sort of the flawed masterpiece. I feel like it was good, but it needed more time. I think that's I've seen their whole facility there. They're cool people. You should go there, check them out. I enjoy going to Neely Family more than I enjoy going to Limestone Branch, but there you go. And Limestone Branch it was great. It was I think, when I tried it, I thought that this one was better than all the other ones. And then when I tried this one, it was better than that one. So it was pretty clear to me that they're doing something right there. So that's good. So
I still stand by my original choice, but I am willing to vacate that choice because this is also surprisingly very good
Yeah.
for as young as it is. This Runestone, I've seen Epoch around, but I don't think that I've ever tried it, or Epic, or however you want to say it.
Let's just go Epoch. Sounds better.
And you look at the bottle, you see the name, you think, okay, this is some good stuff, and then you try it, and it's like, and this is personal opinion. I would suggest either one of these, honestly. I think they're both really high quality products, and like you said, a couple more years in the barrel on the Neely, and man, we're talking some serious fun.
And I recommend going to the distilleries too. If you're anywhere near any of these places, they're all fun to see. Again, Runestone was interesting. It's not my favorite, but it's definitely interesting and different. And on that bombshell, whichever. I want to thank everybody for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Have a good drink, and have a good day.
Hello, you big, beautiful world.